Hi everyone. This is the first of a number of presentations that we at FARSIGHT call Reflections. Now these reflections are designed to help our audience understand what we do at FARSIGHT using remote viewing with respect to what is happening in the world more generally. Now as you know, we have published a number of videos that we consider to be public negotiations with extraterrestrials. Now we don't believe in secrets at FARSIGHT. Things that are done secretly are almost always detrimental to humanity more generally. Secrets lead to people trying to do things that they otherwise would not have tried to get away with had others known what they were up to. And when it comes to the subject of interacting with extraterrestrials, that is a problem, big time. Secrecy is the name of the game when governments deal with any topic relating to extraterrestrials. But this does not only apply to governments. Many extraterrestrials also like to do things secretly, and they even like to convince governments to go along with their secrets. The outcome is predictable. Things get done that end up being horrific, things that would never have been done had people been told what was happening from the outset. Here at FARSIGHT, we use remote viewing to help end secrecy, to tell people what has happened in the past and to create new things by publishing information that people can use to create a new and better reality. Truthfulness, vastly underrated. A good dose of it goes a long way. To use remote viewing to do this, we have invested a huge amount of time and money training people in how to do this. So the remote viewers that you watch in FARSIGHT projects truly are the best of the best. You see, when you watch our remote viewing projects, we are showing you exactly what our highly trained remote viewers actually perceive firsthand. We are not showing you stuff that people tell us. This is the difference between first-hand perception and revelation. When you have someone tell you something, you have to know whether or not you can trust the person. Revelation involves a lot of trust. But when people have their own interests, sometimes conflicting interests, they can tell you a bunch of lies. And that is the problem with revelation. When you depend on other people telling you things, they can lie to you. So when you watch our remote viewing studies with sessions recorded live on video under totally blind conditions, you are watching something original first-hand perceptions. But then you have to compare that with other things that are told to you by others, and that is where the conflicts come in. What others tell you may not match with what we see firsthand. Now consider this. What is the role of the New Age community in the world today? The New Age community has a general huge thirst for knowledge, dealing with topics like consciousness, remote viewing, and especially life in the universe. If you were an extraterrestrial group who wanted to control humanity for your own purposes, the New Age community would be a high priority target for you. They would be a community who could ruin your efforts if they got wind of what you're up to and if they spread the information around. They would not miss what you do. They pay attention to your type of stuff. Now, other groups could be more easily controlled by controlling the information they get from official news sources and from governments, but the New Age community often does not trust governments or mainstream news. So they are a special problem, that is, if you are interested in controlling a planet's population. Well, one way you can attack this problem is to feed information into the New Age community. Since that community generally distrusts governments and mainstream news, you would have to feed the information into that community using sources that, one, you could control, and two, the New Age community would believe. Now, one obvious attack vector for this problem would be channelers. Think of it. In general, channelers exude innocence and openness. They have a huge desire to communicate with extraterrestrial entities, and they are enormously trusting. They are willing to completely open their minds to extraterrestrial entities with total trust, and then let these entities speak through them. Moreover, they are willing to do this hour after hour, day after day, year after year, building large audiences, and they are willing to do this with total innocence and good vibrations. Trustworthy to the end. And if you are an extraterrestrial wanting to control humanity, this is a free lunch. An opportunity too good to turn down. All you need to do is to convince the humans offering themselves as channels that you are a good person, honest, trustworthy, and sincere. If you watch FARSIGHT projects, you will know that extraterrestrials have no problems or hesitancy tricking governments into making agreements and signing documents that are based on total trickery. The ETs are good at this. And if they are willing and able to dupe the President of the United States and his advisors and the leaders of other countries, do you think that they would have any trouble duping innocent and trusting channelers who are dropping all defenses and opening their minds willingly for you to use? If extraterrestrials want something, they will lie through their teeth to get it. It has happened time after time, and it is not going to stop happening. This does not mean that you cannot trust any and all extraterrestrials to ever be honest with you. Some ETs make an effort to be honest, but you need your own independent source of direct information to know things. You can never simply trust what anyone tells you. You always have to back up all information with direct perceptions that you control. Well, over the years, I have listened to and read a great deal of channeled information coming from what was said to be extraterrestrials desiring contact with humans. I have found much of that information to be intriguing and even fun. I have gained some important insights from some of this channeled information, but eventually I had to compare the channeled information with the information that our remote viewers at FARSIGHT were obtaining through direct observation, and that is when the troubles with a great deal of channeled information became quite obvious. Eventually, the differences became overwhelming. In general, we have found that channeled information always has a mixture of truthful and deceptive or blatantly false information. It is always a mix. Rarely can channeled content be relied on as completely truthful. There is always an agenda for all ETs, and since human channelers are good and honest people who are normally totally trusting of the channeled entities, this makes the channelers very susceptible to manipulation and abuse when the ETs have their own interests and agendas. As you know from FARSIGHT's projects, we have discerned that Earth has long been operated as a galactic prison, one that is still active today. Despite what you may have been told, when your physical body dies, you can't just go anywhere you want. Dying is not a way to escape. But much of the ability of the prison system to continue operations is dependent on you not knowing that it is a prison. There are traps, what we call death traps. And traps don't work if you know about them. Secrecy again plays a huge role. And Earth's prison operators are certain to take advantage of channelers when trying to control what you know about the prison. The channeled entities can pass any desired information through the channelers. Because of the nature of the process itself, there is little to no critical thinking as to whether the information is true or false. So this type of information transfer is ripe for abuse by ETs who want to manipulate a human audience, thereby preventing humans from discovering the secrets that the ETs don't want you to know. The channeled entities blend the truthful information in with the false and deceptive information so that everything comes through in the same mix. And separating the truthful stuff from the false and deceptive stuff is like trying to separate grains of sand on a beach. Everything is so thoroughly mixed. The inclusion of truthful information makes the overall package more acceptable to the audience, so there is always a blending of truthful content with the false and deceptive content. If something is said that is true, then it feels good, and the temptation is to believe the rest of the channeled information. The false and deceptive content rarely is delivered by itself, since it would be too easy to identify in isolation, and then to reject it. The basic idea is that some ETs are involved in maintaining the Earth prison system primarily so that they can continue to exploit the genetic and other materials available on Earth. They have an interest in diffusing all opposition to their activities. The New Age community is a direct threat to them, since that community is the most interested in ET activities. So it is necessary for the oppressor ETs to control the New Age community by directly feeding this community information that satisfies their hunger for information, while at the same time controlling the content of the information such that the ETs are presented as benevolent helpers. But the idea that humans are a young species that is in need of gentle and incremental ET contact is a myth. The idea that the ETs are trying to encourage open contact through channeling is a myth. The goal is not to actually have contact, which could be done openly in a minute with physical ships and people if they really wanted to do this. The goal is to tease the human audience into thinking that contact is close, ever so close, but never to have it actually happen. It's always preparing for contact. The bottom line, the fundamental goal, is to maintain a brainwashing state of mind over humanity so that it collectively does not remember what happened to it, that all humans on this planet were forcefully placed here and exposed to amnesia processes that erased all memories of who they were and where they came from. It promotes a false ideology that the oppressor ETs are trying to lift up humanity to eventually join a benevolent galactic civilization. All this is falsehood. None of it is true. There are what you would want to call good ETs, but the ones running the prison system are not the good guys. The trouble is that most people have trouble differentiating the good guys from the bad guys, and that is what I want to talk about today. For example, the ideas spread by channeled information relating to densities and evolving upward to 4th, 5th, and 6th densities is partially true and partially a cover story for death trap harvesting. The reality is that a person's personality exists and continues to exist indefinitely. There is no time limitation to anything that exists. Everything that exists does so across all time and space. This is why remote viewers can perceive across time and space. They already exist in the here and now across all time and all space. There is no harvesting. There is no merger with a higher density that eliminates the personality. Nothing that exists in time and space can ever be destroyed. What exists now will always exist. One of the most detrimental ideas that is promoted by ETs who use human channelers to spike the information pool available to humanity involves the concept that evolving to higher level densities involves some sort of graduation, which implies an ending of something so that something new and better can happen. That is the key point that tells you that these ETs are working as oppressors within the Earth prison system. There is no graduation, no transformation from one density to another such that what was before no longer exists. This utilizes the concept of time as a device to create such an illusion. It ties into the idea of harvesting of souls that is a very common theme in the channeling literature. There is no harvesting. Every human or ET soul exists forever. It is not possible to kill a soul, human, ET, or otherwise. However, the idea of transitioning between densities reinforces the idea of terminating your current personality, and the channeling ETs make a tremendous effort across many human channelers to get you to accept this idea. Friends, they are trying to condition you to voluntarily accept the process of going through the death traps over and over. The oppressor ETs maintain the death traps as a secret, and again, a trap no longer works if it is no longer a secret. They will tell you that the death traps do not exist, that it is just a story. They will tell you that even if the Earth was once a prison, it is no longer, and when your physical body dies, you can go wherever you want. The story they are wanting you to accept is a story designed to prevent you from discovering the reality of their secret, the reality of your situation. By erasing your memories, you essentially end your current personality and start over. That is what they mean when they talk about harvesting or graduation. In the absence of being processed through the amnesia death trap system, your personality persists forever, and your personality will continue to evolve and change in a gradual manner. But your current you will still be around millions of years from now. Nothing ever dies. Nothing. And you of the past never goes away. Your future you will never go away. Of course you will evolve and you will improve. But there is no harvesting. There are only death traps that cause amnesia, and then you forget your past, and you think you are starting brand new for the first time. The death traps are part of a prison system that is designed to keep you cycling back into lives on Earth each time without remembering who you really are. In the previous era, there was a great emphasis placed on reincarnation. That was also an attempt to get people to accept the idea of sequential lives with different personalities, all of which start over after the death traps processing. But now that is less in fashion, and the prison operatives have found that the discussion of moving between densities is more helpful. It is an easier sell. But again, there is some truth to the density idea, and again, this is the careful blending of truth and falsehood. Everything in the universe exists as energy. Both time and solid matter are very persuasive illusions, but energy is all that exists. We all exist as energy phenomena. This is not a New Age metaphor, it is a literal fact. The physics behind this is still not fully accepted by most mainstream physicists who still cling to some of the intellectual limitations of classical mechanics, but inroads have been made even within the physics community, and I saw one estimate indicating that approximately 20% of mainstream physicists, mostly younger ones, have accepted Hugh Everett's idea of multiple universes as a real thing. These intellectual changes take time, usually involving generational replacement, but the process is happening. So, with everything being a manifestation of energy mixing in infinitely complex waves of constructive and destructive interference, the idea of densities does make sense. It is not possible for what is called a superposition to seriously affect another superposition unless the waveforms that comprise each are compatible. So two people who interact must be made up of compatible waveforms. And as people change how they think, such that they are no longer made up of compatible waveforms, they don't interact. In fact, if they are sufficiently different, they cannot interact because the physics of it makes it impossible. And that is what separates people at different density levels, which is a way of thinking about people who congregate at distinct and separate energy levels, or what you might call densities. Now, what we are doing here at FARSIGHT is introducing new ideas to humanity, and these ideas will eventually change the way the collective of humanity thinks, and this will change the energy wave forms that comprise the earthly community, and that will make humanity less vulnerable to oppressive ET manipulation, including through channeling. So the ETs involved in channeling have a direct interest in stopping this from happening. They know that once humanity thinks differently, their dance is over and a new song begins, a song in which they must sit out the dance. That is how you free humanity. You change how humanity collectively thinks. Then, the channeled ET manipulative ideas will simply bounce off. Now, the story is often heard that third density existence is the cutting edge of the expansion of all that is. It is a realm where all that is experiencing being separated from source. And the story is designed to make humans feel like they're special, and that they volunteered to experience this separation from source. This is all a cover story to make it difficult for humans to remember that they were thrown into this state involuntarily by prison operatives who destroyed human memories by processing personalities through amnesia machines. Essentially, electroshock treatments that work on the level of the soul to disorient subjects by temporarily destroying their ability to perceive across time and space. The goal of the amnesia machines is to temporarily destroy the ability to communicate telepathically and to remote view naturally. Remote viewing is the normal way that a person's long-term memory works. A person simply perceives what was done in the past. So this entire story of voluntarily living lives separated from source is a lie. It is just a way to try to make the human population voluntarily accept their enslaved condition.